So good morning. I'm Yolanda, and with my colleagues Marco, Marcelo, Regino, and Guillermo, we are going to present how emerging technologies affect millennials different than older generations and how these differential effects may influence the adoption by banks and other institutions. So first, as the topic is Brazil here, we have to understand the demographics of Brazil that we can see in the next slide. Here we can see easily that more than the 60% of the population in Brazil are people under 38 years old. This is something important to consider for this project, as we are also going to consider the older gap in Generation Z. So we have divided this in two main categories. How? So we have techies and older generations. Techies, Generation Z, millennials, and maybe the youngest part of Generation X, that they like transparency, personalized tools, and freedom. And then we have the older generation, as everybody knows, they like easiness and security. And Marcel is going to talk about the problem we found here.
So the current and potential technological state in Brazil is heavily influenced by the promotion of competitiveness by authorities such as the central bank, the customer's discontentment with traditional banks and their bureaucracy, and the increase of people with smartphones. While comparing the financial results of Brazil's largest fintech, Nubank, currently a unicorn, which is valued over 1 billion reais, it's very unfavorable. Nubank has accumulated debt of 530 million reais negative, while Brazil's biggest private traditional bank, Itaú, has almost 72 billion positive. And that's because they have heavily invested in technology. While it seems clear that there's a way to go for those that are only technology driven, we believe the future ahead should be brighter should Santander decide with our technological proposal. We have discovered that Brazil is on fire because more than half of Brazilians have some type of debt. And of those, almost 80% have credit card debt. And 2 out of 3 people who have debt are techies. As shown by the graph below, millennials have the most debt compared to other generations.
Okay, so having my friend Marcelo describe the Brazilian fire, don't worry at all, because the firemen are here to solve the problem. We have thought of 2 ways of approaching this big problem, the credit card debt in millennials, or techies as we call. So we decided to divide it in 2. First of all, we would like to avoid and prevent the problem from happening in the near future. And also we would like to help and do something for the people that are currently involved in the problem. So for the first solution, we decided to divide it in 3 small other solutions. First of all, we would like to apply artificial intelligence to determine credit limit. We strongly believe that this process is already done by using economic formulas. However, we are very sure that it is not successful at all, because if so, we will not be talking about this today. Moreover, we would like to take advantage of the fact that credit is a living process, it's not fixed like a bank loan, so the IA would take decisions dynamically. Second, we would like to quote Professor Ticello here, that in one class said, if you don't see money, you save it. So following this idea, we propose that the bank offer the client to put some money apart, so it is easily for them to save it. And then last but not least, I think that many of our mates already commented the problem that financial literacy has in the world. And we found that Brazil is the last country among OECD countries in financial literacy. And of course, this has a great impact in debt. And so as to tackle this problem, we thought of using again artificial intelligence by developing a personal budgeting tool. So the artificial intelligence will tell the client how much to spend on each category. Also, you could ask the artificial intelligence, do I have enough money to buy a new TV? How do I have to change my spending habits? And so on. So having described the solutions, let's talk a bit about their cost and feasibility. So dealing with the cost, we did not find any cost at all for the second solution, because we think it is a very, very easy solution to implement. And talking about the first and the third one, we think that most cost would be technical ones, because you have to develop the artificial intelligence systems, and also there is a risk there that the AA would not work as expected at the beginning. And talking about feasibility, we think that the best way to check that something is feasible or not is to look for if other people have already implemented something similar. So here we have some examples of other enterprises that, despite some differences, very important differences, they have thought of doing similar things. And it is very funny that we find BBVA here, the biggest bank competitor in Spain, that already has the offer for the client to put the money apart. And well, so as to draw the previous conclusions, we developed a business model canvas for this first solution and for the second solution that my teammate Marco is going to speak about now. And well, if you want to check more details on the canvas, you could check in the appendix.
Well, thank you, Guillermo. Now I'm going to talk about our second proposed solution, that is to help the people that are already in debt. As the data shows, Brazil has a lot of consumer credit card debt. In this scenario, Santander should tender for those who voluntarily want to refinance their debt. Once all candidates have applied, an AI system would create a profile for each one of them based on their guarantees offered, their equity, salary, credit history, and even could use open banking to speed up the process. Having selected the debtors, the bank would offer a personalized refinancing. Now, going through the costs, although this solution may seem to be a win-win for both parts, the bank would have at the right cost. The provision incomes due to this pending debt would be delayed in time. As a possible solution, Santander could issue a bond for the same amount that has been refinanced at a lower interest rate than the refinanced debt, so the bank secures itself. By carrying out this process, even when the bank is protecting their own interest, it is helping at the same time the debt problem of Brazilians. Now, about the feasibility, once again, we back up our proposals in existing procedures that, even though that they are not the same as the proposed solutions, it helps to prove the feasibility of them. In the matter of issuing a bond, Santander already resorted to this type of solution. As you may see in the screen, in this year, Santander tendered $2 billion between Mexico and Spain franchises, both cases for a liquidity injection to their banking system. Now, into the case of using an IA to determine if a candidate is suitable or not for a refinancing process, we found that it's relatable to the Alibaba's case that IA granted microloans. Moreover, only 1% of Alibaba's IA who has lent was defaulted, so it shouldn't be any different here. Now, talking about the legal structure and situation, as you may also see in the screen, those screenshots from newspapers says that since last year, the Brazilian Central Bank is deregulating, allowing fintechs and allowing to use IA open banking to enter the market and allow a better banking system. We may not have the power to determine what the next steps should be, but it seems that Brazilians are in the right way here, so our solutions could be implemented economic and legally speaking. Now, in reference of the influence of the COVID-19, it is no news that due to the COVID-19, debts in general are going to be increasing during the pandemic and afterwards. But we do not have to be pessimists at all. In this context, our problem-solving solutions are even more doable. And in the refinanciation, it helps in a post-COVID world help to eliminate the financial burden of young people that, after all, represents almost 60% of the population in Brazil. Now, reaching to the conclusion, it is no news that emerging technologies can affect in infinite different ways. After all, it is through the technologies like open banking, machine learning, that we could have an impact into everyone's lives, make them simpler and better. Through this presentation, we prove that when you bring a technological solution to a real problem that affects the population as a whole, there is no contrast or separation between generations whatsoever, because the technology quickly reaches all population in a transversal way, and specifically, our solutions by only adding easiness and security, other generations could be reached. Thank you all for listening. Now we continue to the Q&A section.
Thank you all. Very nice presentation. So I see that you're going to, I think solution 2, correct me if I'm wrong, you're talking about giving opportunities to existing customers to refinance and to, in essence, get better borrowing terms than the rates on their credit card. So could you expand a little bit on how you would how Santander is assessing the credit worthiness of these customers and determining, in essence, what rate that they'll charge?
Do you want to answer or should I answer, Marco? What do you?
Go, Guillermo.
Okay. So as Marco mentioned, we are again using artificial intelligence here because we think that with past data, we can figure out who is a good debtor and who is not, and who should be charged with greater interest rates and who shouldn't, and those things. Also, we would be using open banking to check easier these things you mentioned, the incomes, the goods of the person, and so on. So it is easier and without bureaucracy.
Okay.
To add what Guillermo said, actually the financial amount of overdue debts in Brazil right now are 253 billion reais. So it's a real problem.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And so in essence, you're bypassing the credit scoring system that we've discussed, going directly to AI, which is an evolution that we're seeing anyways in throughout the world. Good. One follow-up with regards to the loans. I think it was in solution 1, the loans that you would be the new debt that Santander would be issuing, right? Have you thought of, we didn't get a chance to talk about in our sessions, the different risk for this set of loans or bonds that Santander would issue versus their other bonds that they're issuing? Have you thought about any differential in the, I would say, pricing, the interest rates that they're offering on those?
Well, actually, in the Spain bond, it was 1.12% to 7 years. And in the Mexico case was to 5 years and 5%, like 5.012. And that was the amount. But our proposal, it has a lower interest rate than the refinance debt, so the bank can secure itself in case that the debts, many debts are defaulted. So the bank wouldn't, it's between the interest rate in Spain and in Mexico. That's our proposal.
Okay, thank you, thank you. I'm not sure, Ashley Baker was having some technical difficulties. I'm not sure if you have any questions, Ashley.
No, thank you. I'm not sure I tuned in enough time to catch the meat of your presentation, so I'm sorry.
So thank you very much, and we'll move on to the, I think is this the final presentation? What?